Lucas is like the biggest anti-Semitic account on Twitter. And many of you who've been watching this know don't just like to throw out anti-Semitic at anything that I disagree with. Disagree with, like many like to do. Lucas is a real anti-Semite. No, not just an anti-Zionist. Like, he hates the Jews. 99% of us, he says, are problematic, right? So if this is an anti-Semitic, then what is? And interestingly, if you were to ask him if he's anti-Semitic, I think he would deny it. He'd say, no, I'm not. He'd say, and the way he kind of hops around the issue is like, I have no problem with Jews, just Jewish supremacy. But then he also believes that 99% of Jews are somehow supremacists. Hold on. Lucas Gage, #1 anti-Semite on Twitter. The challenge with a lot of anti-Semites is that a lot of their hate is rooted in conspiracy. So it's not always easy to debate, because they believe something that it's almost impossible to prove if happened or not. And a lot of their hate is really dependent on, these beliefs. But so we'll see some of that. He also has he served in Iraq as a U.S. Marine, and I think he has some trauma. I think we see his trauma coming out on some posts. You'll see there's a lot of anger in his posts, and I'm not going to say he's not a smart guy. He seems intelligent, but a lot of the arguments he make, if you actually think about them, they have gaping holes in them, and I don't know if he realizes them. He's just so fueled by his disdain for the Jews, or if he just doesn't realize that these aren't sound arguments. So anyways, let's review Lucas Gage's account. And again, so I don't know, there's some drama with Dan Cohen. He goes, no, Dan Cohen went on a show calling me an anti-Semite and a deep state agent. Jews like Dan are there to control the narrative and keep it within kosher boundaries. The last thing Jews want are Gentiles actively solving the problems they created. He makes a living reporting on his fellow Jews' crimes. So, right, I mean, this clearly, right, these are the words of an anti-Semite. There's really no question about it. He really struggles with the Jews. I don't really know the drama here, but he's almost hinting here that, like, Dan Cohen went on a show calling me an anti-Semite, as if he takes issue with this, which means he very well might not feel like he's an anti-Semite. I'd actually, be down to have Lucas on the show for a conversation, for him to make the case that he's not anti-Semitic. And I honestly think we could maybe have a nice, productive conversation. It's funny, here we see a little bit of a split, like, how you have many on left-wing anti-Zionists like to say, look, the real Jews are anti-Zionists as well. And now Lucas is having a little battle with them. The real Jews are Zionists. So I think this is a difference between right-wing anti-Zionism and left-wing anti-Zionism, perhaps. So Lucas goes, real Jews are Zionists. Judaism's entire endgame is Zionism. I mean, he does have a point here, right? So, like, the religious Jews that are anti-Zionist, they're anti the state of Israel in its current form. It's not like they don't believe that Jews should one day return to the land and create a Jewish kingdom there. They just believe it should only happen when the Messiah comes. So there is an argument to be made that the anti-Zionists in the Neturei Karta, they just support a different form of Zionism, but they don't support the state of Israel as it is. So Israeli citizens spoke against the crimes of Israel.
I'm Israeli. My parents were the only survivors of their families from the Holocaust. They both survived Auschwitz. I'm not going to support genocide, am I? I'm here with
This is pretty amazing. So you literally have a Jew protesting Israel, saying that he's protesting Israel because his family are Holocaust survivors, right? And this, Norman Finkelstein takes a very similar approach. Lucas takes issue with this because he says, how dare him mention him being a Jew or the Holocaust? Do I run around saying, well, as a white man, I think it's wrong to bomb children? In a way, he implies most of his tribe are genocidal maniacs, and he's not one of them. No, that's not what he's implying. It's very common, and you can make the argument that you shouldn't do this, but it's very common to people to mention the identity they come from as a form to give them legitimacy on an issue. And Lucas would likely do this too if it was something relevant to his identity. If it was something, for example, if there was like a movement on the left saying real white men are feminine, he would say, as a white man, I disagree, right? Because in that instance, it's his identity is relevant. This isn't something connected to Jewish supremacy. This is something that people do across the board, that you could say your identity doesn't give you more legitimacy. You can make that argument, but it has nothing to do with Jewish supremacy in action. So, and you'll know this in forms of group hate. They often, it's like when you look at the world through Jew-tinted glasses, you see the Jew everywhere. And this is true about any tint you have on your glasses. But often, the group you hate, you see them doing these horrible things, and you think it's unique or exclusive to that group. If Lucas were to see somebody else, say, as a woman or as a Black person, he might notice it, but it wouldn't trigger him nearly as bad because he's not as sensitive to women or to Black people than he is to Jews. So every time he sees a Jew do it, it kind of triggers something in him. It takes up a lot more space in his mind. And that's like a lot of how like biases against people work. So this is funny. He's calling out an anti-Zionist Jew, or at least a Jew that's protesting the Israeli government because he mentioned that his family was in the Holocaust. Okay, let's see. Here's the trick. He's going to teach us a trick. Let's see what trick he knows. Zionist Jews. Hey, Judeo-Christian white men, we need to go to war with those brown Muslim jihadis. Anti-Zionist Jews. Hey, people of all color, we need to go to war with those white supremacist Christians. He who's always protected in both cases. Okay, so let's start with Zionist Jews. So what he's actually referring to, because he says Judeo-Christian white men, he's not saying Zionist Jews. He's referring to right-wing Jews. And he's saying some right-wing Jews want us to go to war with Muslim jihadists. That's true. That is true about right-wing people in general. He's just attributing it to the Jew. But if you look at like American conservatism, a lot of them feel like our biggest threat is Muslim jihadists. The Republican Party would not be empowered by Jewish votes alone. I mean, that's very clear. It requires white Christian men, and who are actually more similar to Lucas than to Jews for U.S. foreign policy support that involves fighting Muslim jihadists. But here he really attributes something that is very obviously attributed to conservatism, or at least American conservatism, and he makes it about Jews. And then he goes, let's go to anti-Zionist Jews. Hey, all people of color, we need to go to war with those white supremacist Christians. That is true of Jews who are on the left, and a very special part of the left, what has been known as wokeness, right? If you're a woke Jew, you're going to feel like we need to go to war with white supremacists. If you're a woke atheist or Christian or Muslim, you're going to feel the same exact way. So what he does is all he's doing is pointing out that Jews on different sides of the political spectrum have different beliefs. And then he goes, see who's always protected in both cases. So now he thinks he's making an interesting point of the fact that he's not going to see Jews who are blatantly anti-Semitic. That's okay. That's not really a point, my guy. It's going to be hard to find a Jew that their entire narrative is to be anti-Semitic. And again, here all we're seeing is you're matching, you're attributing political ideology to Jewish ideology, which is, again, it's a common theme that we see in anti-Semites, or people who in general don't like certain groups. So again, this argument, right? You could like what he's saying here. You could almost question his intelligence, because it's quite obvious that he's doing something that doesn't seem so intellectually sophisticated. So the question is, does he realize that this is a bad argument and he doesn't care, or if he's really just hasn't thought through this stuff and really understood that all he's doing is saying, oh, look, a conservative Jew believes that, a liberal Jew believes that. Look at them playing both sides of politics and leaving the Jew out. It's just it's not thought through, my guy. Let's see this one. Why I push free speech the way I do is to purposely trigger those against it. They get mad, then they demand my censorship, which shows everyone who they are. They cannot stop my strategy, even when I tell them. They're predictable because I've read their playbook, and then their playbook is here. I don't know what this is going to lead to. Maybe I'll look it over later. I also don't buy that this is why he does it, that he does it to purposely trigger those against it. I think he which very much believes in this truth and feels like he's doing something good talking about it. And the natural response to some of his truth is people calling for him to be censored. Now he's saying Nazi, Jew hater, anti-Semite, white supremacist, fascist, Holocaust denier are labels Jews throw at people who refuse to submit to Jewish supremacy. If you're not being called at least one of these things, you're not actually fighting the system, right? Here's just also another post that just, lacks a certain awareness of how things actually work. We'll start where what's true about this. It's that a lot of these terms are way too commonly used. And, in politics today, also, this is something that the woke has very much popularized. It is to use pejoratives to describe those who you disagree with politically, and nasty pejoratives. So it's not uncommon for, we saw this during the 2020 elections, was it? No, sorry, the 2016 elections. Anybody voting for Trump was called a Nazi, right? This was very common for people to do on the left. Now we're seeing a lot of people opposing Israel. Even if it's legitimate opposition, they could be called an anti-Semite or a Nazi. So there's an overusage of these terms. Where he's wrong is they're not labels Jews throw at people who refuse to submit to Jewish supremacy. Like, this is just not connected to reality. Jewish supremacy is not the problem here. The problem is calling somebody a pejorative if you disagree with their politics, which is something we are seeing on both sides of the political spectrum. It is something Jews certainly engage in, but they do so not for any reasons connected to. Actually, let me be more charitable here. If he means if what he's saying submit to Jewish supremacy, he means Zionism, then I think it's actually a more accurate statement. I think that opposition to Zionism is often met with certain pejoratives, like, anti-Semitic. Some would even go on to say Nazi. But based on knowing his stuff, when he says Jewish supremacy, he doesn't only mean Zionism. He's saying in general, Jews have this mission to control the Gentiles, right? This is one of the conspiracies that many anti-Semites believe, because they read the Talmud, which certainly has certain supremacist texts in that, and they attribute those beliefs to every Jew, including atheist Jews in Hollywood and in Wall Street. And so any action they see a Jew taking, they attribute to this idea of trying to control the Gentiles. So this is really what he's referring to. And most Jews are not on a life mission to control the Gentiles. I would say a fraction of the Jews maybe even think about that as even some kind of Jewish mission. And I'm not no theologian, but I do come from a very large family, most of them being religious, and I can tell you with confidence that this idea of having control over the rest of the world is not something that is discussed or spoken of. Yeah, there's certainly beliefs of we are the chosen ones. Some view chosen as, say, chosen in the sense of special. Others say chosen as chosen with a certain duty or responsibility. But it's not like any of these actually act in a way that they feel like global control is what their life mission or what's important in Judaism. And in fact, the Jews, and here's one of the largest holes in a lot of anti-Semitic ideology, it's that the Jews who have by far the most power and can essentially pull the strings, they're secular. They don't even know what the Talmud says. They don't, a lot of them are even atheists, right? So it's just such a large, they attribute the beliefs of one group of Jews to another group of Jews and think that the actions they take based off those they're taking actions based on that set of beliefs. So again, it's not sophisticated. It's not thought through. We'll do a few more on Lucas, and then we could go to another account. Dear Christian, Jews are telling you Christian nationalism is a problem and do everything in their power to undermine and destroy your country because it is Nazism or something, while they hypocritically have a Jewish state that you send billions of your taxes to. So again, here he goes. Jews are telling you Christian nationalism is a problem. Which Jews are saying this? Jews who are generally politically left, but to the far left, an area of the left. Again, there's no, it's not like wokeness is like a clearly defined term. We could do like a full live stream dedicated to a better understanding wokeness, and let's say my strong disagreements with it, but it's just, let's just see it as some kind of a brand of leftism that has a certain set of traits and features. And generally speaking, if you hear somebody talking about like white supremacy or Christian nationalism, it comes from this group of people. And there's some amount of Jews that are woke, and they, like the Christian woke and the atheist woke, are going to be talking about this. Now, is there some percentage of woke Jews who don't support a Christian nationalist state? They do support a Jewish state, right? Is there maybe an inconsistency there? Or perhaps, right? So there's a higher rate of woke Jews who support Israel than woke non-Jews. That's possible, right? Is that bias? It could be. Is it understanding? Perhaps there's a nuance there, right? You could say U.S. does not need to be a Christian state for the people in the U.S. to remain safe, which is true. That logic doesn't hold up in Israel, right? Very few people can make or I've yet to heard a good case for how the state of Israel gets dismantled and the citizens of Israel remain safe. That's not the same when it comes to the United States. So it wouldn't even be inconsistent if you think Israel should be an ethno state and the U.S. shouldn't. You could defend that position quite easily. We watched this video of his. So here he's saying we should stop calling it the Israel lobby, Jewish lobby. People have to stop being afraid of saying Jewish. It is Jewish. They are all Jewish. Clear who he has a problem with. So now, look at this poll. Okay, we didn't click the results yet, but knowing who his followers are, I'm going to guess what percentage we see. Are you concerned with the rise of anti-Semitism? Yes, it must be stopped. No, more is better. You would think if you would actually poll, let's say, the United States, very few would say no, more is better. They might not say yes, it must be stopped. They might say they don't think there's a rise, right? But given these two options, very few are going to say no, more is better. When it comes to Lucas's followers, I'm going to guess an over 80% say no, more is better. Let's see, 87.6%. So to just give you an understanding of who his followers are. Here's something about Germany. Let's see. He goes, let me get this straight. Jews can laugh and share the dead bodies of Palestinians, but we show the kids they murdered, and it's violating of German law. I hope Germans rise up and kick these supremacists out of their country again. We received a complaint regarding your account of the following content. Dun dun. In accordance to that, holding recorded content in Germany, specifically for the following: protection of minors. Violation of human dignity. Right. Okay. Well, again, this might not have anything to do with Jewish supremacy or even some bias on X. I don't know what the posts are, but it's possible that like Germany just has stricter laws with showing dead children. And if that's the case, that's going to be true if it's Jewish accounts posting it or German account or Palestinian, dead Palestinian children or dead Israeli children or who the accounts are. He's not proving any bias. He's just showing that he had an issue with like German content laws, and it very well may not be them out to get him like he's making it seem. Right, and interesting, he very much a lot of anti-Semites, they always call out Jews for like being like these perpetual victims and talking about the Holocaust and this, and I agree that there is a some culture of victimhood in Jewish culture. In Judaism, like we do have a lot of this. I'm trying to say this without being offensive, but whatever. There's a culture of victimhood in Judaism that I'm sure many see, and Palestinians too have a strong culture of victimhood as well. But you know who else does? Anti-Semites. They love to be the victims. The whole world's against them. This small group of people are pulling the strings and their life isn't good because of the Jews. So it's funny how they accuse others of being victims when they themselves are constantly complaining that the world is against them. He's showing a poll saying 1 out of 5 young people 18 to 29 now say that the Holocaust never happened. Let's see. Agreement with the statement above about Israel. The Holocaust is a myth. Do you agree with the statement? You have... Oh yeah, well, interesting. Well, that might be a little concerning, huh? 1 in 5 18 to 29-year-olds. Again, I don't know what 1,500 U.S. adult citizens. Okay, looks like a legit poll. And it's funny, when you go up to the higher age demographic, it goes from 20% to 8% to 2%. 65 plus, it's virtually 0%. That's interesting. So we could see this as a trend of what's to come, or it's something that will just be left in youth, right? These youth might grow up and understand that we have quite a fair bit of evidence to the Holocaust existing. It does get harder because you have all these Holocaust survivors who are, soon there won't be any Holocaust survivors left. So the farther we get away, we move from the Holocaust, the easier it will be to deny. But there's tens of thousands of recorded testimonies that carry a whole lot of weight. Thanks. Shout out to Julian for bringing me some morning. Is this for me or just giving me a sip? There's just a sip, but appreciate it nonetheless. What I would say about Holocaust denial is that it shouldn't be illegal. The fact that it's illegal makes people more suspicious of it. Myself included, honestly. I've never thought to question any part of the official narrative until seeing that you're not allowed to question it. And I always get very suspicious when you're not allowed to question something by law. I think that things that hold up on their merit, things that are easy to prove, things that are obvious, let them be open for debate and discussion. You don't need a built-in mechanism to stop people from talking about things that are easy to prove. So don't make it illegal, open up conversation about it. And that's, probably how we can fight this denialism. All right, let's see his Jew chart. I like me a good chart, So we have a big circle, which encompasses most Jews either religious or not, that are indoctrinated to feel they are permanent victims. There we go. There it goes, that victim narrative. Nepotistic, genocidal, and racist, and will protect other Jews even in pedo crimes, cases, and worse. Very easily inducted into the smaller circle. And then smaller circle, Jewish elite, runs world through banking, media, politics, secret society, Satanism, covert and overt genocide and murder, child sex trafficking, and all world tyrannies by deceit, blackmail, and force. So what's interesting here, this isn't an entirely untrue chart, but it follows a similar logic to his other arguments that if you take out Jewish and just say global elite and most other people, you have a similar logic. So you could attribute certain qualities to the elite and how they act. And then you could talk about the common folk and their views about the elite, or not being like aware of certain things the elite do, those having some form of victim mentality, them acting in a way that's nepotistic. These aren't things that are unique to Jews. These are things that exist in all groups. But again, here it's attributed specifically to the group. And then this small little one is Jews that are neither. Now, are Jews more nepotistic or defensive of Jews than, let's say, a Christian would be of a Christian? I would say, yeah, in fact, they are. Generally, minority groups that are historically oppressed tend to, it gives them a stronger sense of unity. And with that, you could have things like nepotism. With that, you could have a thing of feeling protective over another Jew. This is a result of a history of oppression. This isn't unique to Jews. You see this in the Black community as well. You'll see this in any minority group that's been oppressed. It is a natural result of humans in a state of oppression and how they deal with the challenges of these external forces oppressing them. Often it comes in the form of group unity, which is interesting because nothing fuels Jewish pride and even called Jewish supremacy more than anti-Semites. Like Lucas Gage, his contribution to the world has been to create more anti-Semites and a stronger sense of Jewish unity, right? So there's more Jewish unity because he's alive. And this is kind of the result of hating groups. You, in a sense, make that group more unified and stronger. And then you'll see some of these, some of these qualities arise, like nepotism and just support for the group as a whole, or defensiveness over members of that group. That being said, it's not true that Jews don't criticize Jews. I mean, you're not going to find Jews that defend Jeffrey Epstein, unless we're talking about Alan Dershowitz. But that's because he's the defense attorney, and his job is to sometimes defend the worst people in existence. Or Harvey Weinstein, or Bernie Madoff, right? These are all bad Jews that are widely condemned by other Jews. So it's also not entirely true. Back to Twitter. Yeah, so here's another example. So first of all, this journalist Rafat in Gaza was supposedly killed in an airstrike, which is very sad. He was one of the most prominent voices here on Twitter, coming directly out of Gaza. He was killed in an airstrike. I think it was yesterday or the day before. So he's showing, this is, before he passed, he was showing a screenshot of Israelis or pro-Israel people reaching out to him. And then Lucas shares this and goes, "You thought I was kidding when I said it's 99% of them? Keep telling yourself there's millions of good ones, like Norman Finkelstein." They hate him, by the way. So how can you know by a post like this, like how do you conclude from this it's 99% of a group believes something? So Lucas, in his victim mentality, he dedicates his time being anti-Semitic and hating Jews. Jews then attack him en masse, right? And the amount of Jews that attacked him probably make up, a tiny fraction of the Jews that are actually alive. So he has experience with Jews attacking him. In his lack of self-awareness, he thinks it's out of the blue and it's just mean Jews being mean to a goy, to a Gentile, right? That's how he interprets it. But no, any person who's mean to an entire group of people is going to get backlash from that group of people. And how could he then somehow attribute it to the 99%? Right. So it's again, it's just like he has a lack of self-awareness, and there's a lack of sophistication to his arguments that I guess this is what does well on Twitter. But you hear us, if we're not like Norman Finkelstein, then we're the bad ones. Cool. Let's move on to another account. I'll finish with this. Lucas is invited on the show at any time. I'd be happy to have him on for a conversation or even go on his show. Someone did try connecting us. He said he doesn't debate Jews. I told him, I responded on Twitter, said it wouldn't be a debate, it would be a respectful conversation. No answer. So I wonder what that's about.